Hey Pacers, this is Chris Baker, coming to you guys with an explanation for the net neutrality that I keep talking about. And I want you guys to keep reading about. This is pretty apolitical. This is not a Democrat or Republican. This is not a conservative. This is not a liberal issue. This is just simply us versus a lot of rich internet service providers. And so if you like the internet the way you have it, then you need to be educating yourself about this, writing your congressman to make sure that that net neutrality stays the way it is. Now, here's how the internet works. This should be a review for most of you guys, but maybe it's not, and that's okay. This is the way the internet works today. This is with net neutrality. This is what we have today. We're not asking the government to change anything. We're asking the government to leave things the way they are. Okay, you pay your internet service provider, your ISP. For today's example, we're going to call this WPNet, and you get to go to the internet ad nauseum. You can go on the internet as much as your data allows you to, as much as your plan allows you to. You can go to Netflix as many times as you want. If you pay the $9 a month, maybe you might be paying $9 a month for Netflix if that's how much it costs these days. You could be stealing someone's password, which by the fact that I don't know how much Netflix costs might tell you just a little bit about my life. Also, you've got Facebook. You can go to Facebook a million times a day and nobody's going to say anything to you unless you're doing it at work, and then they might say, hey, stop that. The same with Twitter, Instagram, and Google. That's what we have today. This is a net neutrality as it is today. But there's a couple of different things that could happen if the government decides to legislate against net neutrality. Now, this is the best case scenario without net neutrality. The idea is that you would pay WPNet just to get on the internet. You would pay them, say, $14 a month if you wanted to watch Netflix. Plus, you would get to pay Netflix the $9 a month it would cost. If you wanted to get on Facebook, maybe it's $20 a month. Twitter, same thing. You'd have to pay per thing that you want, per site that you want. And then they may even charge it to where you can only visit Facebook 5 times a day for that $20 a month. Or they can put other limits on how many searches you run through Google. And so you're having to pay $30 a month maybe already for Google, and then you're going to be limited on how many searches you can search. Now, if you're like me, I use Google all the time. I Google everything. And so that would start to really get into my pocket and get really expensive through WPNet. And this is without net neutrality. Now, the very worst case scenario, this would be terrible. This would be a horrible idea, primarily because WPNet would take over these services. So they might want to get into the movie streaming business. And so they would start up a company called WP Flex, and you would have to watch movies through WP Flex instead of Netflix. And so if Netflix has got your movie that you want to watch, but WP Flex doesn't, you're out of luck. You can't go to Netflix and get there and watch the movie that you want to watch. So, Game of Thrones suddenly ends up on Netflix, but you don't have WP Flex, you're out of luck. Sorry, that's just not the way it's going to work. All your friends are on Facebook, but you have WPNet. You're on WPasteNet, no, WPastebook. You're on WPastebook, not Facebook. You're on WPastebook. Now, how lame is that? The same with Twitter, the same with Instagram, and certainly with Google. Google would be devastated if this happened, because suddenly you're not getting to go to Google. You have to go to Poodle. And Poodle may not be the greatest search engine in the world. It may be crappy. It may be horrible. But that's what you've got because you have WPNet and we don't have net neutrality. That's a worst case scenario. And you're not getting to these other things. You might say, oh, well, I'll just go onto the other internet. No, that's not how it works. WPNet would control what you got to see and how you got to see it, how often you got to see it. So guys, keep reading up on net neutrality. Keep your eyes on the prize with that. Keep your ideas open. Let people know.